Imagine Ryan Day coaching at Ohio State and not being involved with the quarterbacks. It doesn't sound right.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes, part of Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Monday, March 20th in the year 2023, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. During this episode, we will discuss the danger of rotating linebackers and what Chris Holtman can learn from Fairleigh Dickinson's upset of the Purdue Boilermakers. But before we get to any of that, in the upcoming season, Ryan Day will have a different approach to the football team. He's going to be the head coach. He's still going to be overseeing the entire team, but he's not going to be as involved with the QBs and the offense as he previously has been. Came to Ohio State as, I believe, the co-OC and the quarterbacks coach, got promoted in 2018, got promoted once again in 2019, became the head coach. But everybody knew Ryan Day is a football coach. He's a quarterback coach. He's an offensive guru, which is why Ryan Day, when he announced that there's a possibility of him not calling the plays in 2023, the thought came into many people's minds, what does that mean for Ohio State's offense in the upcoming season? Will he still be involved with the offense specifically, but also the quarterbacks? Cal McCord, Devin Brown, guys that were recruited by Ryan Day. Not saying Corey Dennis was not involved, but Ryan Day was as well. They have been coached by Ryan Day. They have been helped. Ryan Day has helped groom them as players. And Ryan Day is someone that while he's at Ohio State, I believe he should always be involved with the offense and the quarterbacks, even if he is not calling the offensive plays. Think about Ryan Day and the position that he's in going into the upcoming season. If we just picture and take a snapshot of the spring, you have 15 on-field practices, the 15th being a spring game that'll be probably live on the Big Ten Network. You could be there. I believe last year there were 60,000 fans at the spring game, and I know this year's spring game will bring a lot more attention and a lot more eyeballs than maybe some may normally put on the game due to the QB competition. And imagine Ohio State in the situation that they're in. And if Ryan Day says, oh, I'm not going to be involved with the offense like I used to be, or even as much as I should be, or the quarterbacks as an overseer, special teams, defense, offense, you're there, but I'm going to let my guys kind of do that. I don't think that's the best thing right now for Ryan Day. I think he should always be involved with the QBs, always be involved with the offense more than he is any other position or more than he is any other side of the ball. Now, I do think this does give him more time with the defense. Larry Johnson, Jim Knowles, Tim Walton, Perry Eliano, getting to know them, getting to know those position rooms, and figuring out, okay, great. Hey, my position coach is saying this. Even my D coordinator is saying this. But now when it comes to the head coach and he's saying the same thing as the other two guys are saying, ultimately, it may hit a little bit different if Ryan Day goes to Denzel Burke and says, hey, Burke, I know what you've been doing. It ain't working, or here's how you can tweak something to be better on the football field. Why? Because Ryan Day knows offense. But when it comes to the offense specifically, I don't think it's wise for someone who is an expert or really good at what they do to completely be pulled away or to only partially or slightly be on that thing because, oh, I have to be an overseer. Yes, it's going to take great time management. It's going to take Ryan Day trusting the other coaches, putting a great trust in Brian Hartline in the spring. Now, nobody knows. Well, Ryan Day might know, but nobody knows, and it has not been out there and confirmed publicly if Ryan Day is going to call plays or not. In the spring, it's Brian Hartline. He's going to make a decision. Day is going to make a decision about who's going to call plays in the fall. That'll come after spring practice concludes. And you know what? Let's just say Ryan Day does not call plays in the fall. He still needs to be hands-on with the offense. He still needs to be hands-on with the quarterbacks. That's what he is. Imagine Nick Saban, a defensive guy, not being involved with Alabama's defense. Y'all will think that's crazy. Y'all will think that's insane. Imagine Lincoln Riley, a guy who has coached numerous Heisman Trophy winners, including one from last year. Imagine Lincoln Riley not being hands-on with the quarterbacks and the offense at USC. Y'all will think that's crazy, which is why it's equally as crazy for Ryan Day to not take away anything from this offense. Ultimately, Ryan Day's involved with recruiting a lot of the guys that are out there. Cardinal Tate, Brandon Ennis, some of the Evan Pryor, Dallin Hayden. Now, he might not be the direct recruiter, and maybe more Brian Hartline or Tony Alford or Larry Johnson or Jim Knowles, who might be the main contact, main recruiter there. But Ryan Day is still involved. Ryan Day is still talking to these players, talking to the parents, making home visits with the position coaches. He's doing all of these things. Ryan Day needs to be involved, I do believe, in totality overall with the football team. I think him pulling back a little bit and trying to better manage his time, especially during the middle and the end of the regular season, is great, which is why it's also great for him to be involved and do what he does best. Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal, guys that were great in the NBA. Hakeem Olajuwon is someone, or Akeem previously. Hakeem Olajuwon is one that post players, old school post players, used to go to try to get different post moves. I want to say Tim Duncan worked with him. I mean, there have been other guys that have worked with Hakeem Olajuwon to get great, to be really, really good. And he has helped them with their post moves. His footwork in the post was impeccable. It's one of the best things I love about watching Hakeem Olajuwon play the basketball was his footwork and down low. So imagine the Houston Rockets bringing him back in and saying, okay, cool, Hakeem, you're going to come back in. You're primarily going to work with the big man, but you're going to work with the big man, but your main focus is going to be with just the defense as a whole. You're going to have a 20% of your responsibility is going to be with the big man, but we're going to let another guy who was better with the point guards work with the big man of the Rockets. Y'all would think that's crazy. Y'all would say, why would y'all have a point guard work with the big man when that's what my expertise is? Same thing with Ryan Day. Let him do what he does. Let him work with these young men. Let them cook and let Ryan Day work with this offense, even in a different role, to allow the offense to be the best it could be in the upcoming college football season. Ohio State being the best it can be in the upcoming season, there might be some tweaks. There might be some different changes. But I think there's one thing that should not change. And if it changes, it could be a danger and a problem for Ohio State's defense in the upcoming season. What is it? We will discuss that next right here on Locked On Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by Built Bar. The Built March Madness bracket is here. We know you have a favorite bar or puff, and now's your time to make it count. Go to BuiltMarchMadness.com to vote for your favorites. You know I'll be voting for the Coconut Puff. And if you want the Houston Cougars to win, then you'll be voting for that bar too. Support your team, support your bar or puff. And when you vote for your favorite bar or puff, you will be entered into a drawing where 50 lucky Locked On listeners will get a free box of Built. Not only that, but one Locked On fan will win a 12-month subscription to Built to have Built best bars or puffs delivered monthly straight to your door. You got to try Built. Built, the best protein bar ever. Seriously, they're so amazing, you won't think they're good for you. What makes Built bars and puffs so good? Well, for starters, they are all high in protein, low in sugar, and covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. Run to BuiltMarchMadness.com right now to vote for your favorite bar or puff and pick up a box while you're there. You can vote each day in March, so hop in and support your pick. We're all about improving and trying to figure out ways this team can be better in the upcoming season. And as coaches speak to the media, as interviews are conducted, we're going to learn more about the approach and maybe the tweaked mindset certain coaches have going into another season at Ohio State. Coach Key, I do believe Coach Keegan is the only new coach at Ohio State. Actually, on the main coaching staff, top of the coaching staff, a position coach. Everybody else is already there. Brian Hartline is there, but he got promoted, and so his mindset is going to be a little bit different as well. But Jim Knowles is one, the head coach of the defense, who I do believe in the upcoming season, I don't think is going to get fired at the end of the year. I do believe the defense needs to take some drastic measures in the right direction, better themselves, so that Jim Knowles gets another contract, because I do believe he only signed a 2-year contract with Ohio State. And Jim Knowles has discussed and talked about the possibility of rotating linebackers in the upcoming season. There is a danger to do that. I mentioned Hakeem Olajuwon. I can do a lot of basketball connections to football, but let's just stick right here with the football. I don't have to go to basketball or the NBA to make a connection to something that's right here in Ohio State's athletic department. Let's go to basketball, college basketball. Remember when Chris Holtman started rotating the starting lineup and started changing things? Sean McNeil in, Sean McNeil out, Ice Likely starting at the beginning of the season, Ice Likely out, Bryce Sensabaugh not starting, then becoming a starter, then getting pulled from the starting lineup. What did that do? It not only brought on questions for Chris Holtman, but ultimately it hurt the chemistry of the team, because nobody could get into a rhythm. Nobody could start to build consistent chemistry, because one game, McNeil starting. The next he's out, Ice Likely in. The next game, Ice Likely out, somebody else comes in. The end of the season, starting for a freshman. Part of it was out of necessity. Well, starting one guy was out of necessity with Felix Akpar starting for Zed Key. But ultimately, it brought a lot of confusion. It didn't allow the best players to be on the court all the time, because Chris Holtman, as he likes to have a fluid starting five, in, out, in, out, in, out, and it hurt the production of the team. And I do believe that's a big reason why Ohio State basketball team lost 14 to 15 games during the past season. Let's take that same connection to the football field. You yourself are a linebacker, a middle linebacker. Maybe you were a middle linebacker in high school, and all of a sudden you realize, man, I am that dude, man. I'm getting in. They can't stop me. Can't nobody block me. The guards are trying to get to the second level. I am getting around them, going over top, going underneath, missing blockers, shedding blockers, and pow, making tackles. 2-yard loss, 1-yard gain. I am that dude. And all of a sudden, game 5, my coach says, hey, man, we're going to start rotating. We're going to start. Hold on. What you mean you're going to start rotating? Rotate who? Rotate me? Dog, I'm a beast. Like, you may not be saying this to him, to your face to face, but you're like, I'm putting in work, man. I am doing my job. Why in the world are y'all doing this? Well, we feel it's best for the team that we start rotating, and by us rotating, it's going to allow you to be fresher. You're like, hold on. Buddy, it's a drop-off when you take the 2 or 3 linebackers, depending on, maybe 4, depending on what defensive set or unit you play at that time. Maybe a 4-2-5 like Ohio State, maybe a traditional 4-3, maybe a 4-4 like some high schools run or used to. Whatever it is, you're like, hey, man, look, don't do that. And the coach disregards your thought and goes ahead and does that very thing. And what happens? Not only is there a drop-off there, but you notice that your play is a little bit down because you're not on the field consistently. This is what's in my mind in regards to Ohio State possibly rotating linebackers in the upcoming season. Now, granted, let's just be honest with you. Steele Chambers and Tommy Eichenberg are really good linebackers. Eichenberg might be an all-Big Ten player once again, might be an All-American in the upcoming season. Steele Chambers, I do believe, is also, if he takes the next step, he could be an all-Big Ten linebacker. He's that good. I think he'll progress in that way, and linebacker is the right position for him. But taking those 2 guys off the field, and let's just say it's Cody Simon and CJ Hicks, or Cody Simon and somebody else, what's going to happen? There's a drop-off. And what we saw last year, especially when the second unit on the D-line came in, they just got gashed. Just got used and abused. It just got exposed. But especially with D-line, you need to rotate those guys. There's generally a 6 to 8 man rotation on D-line, a backup at each D-end spot, a backup at each D-tackle spot. Why? Because it's needed. Imagine being 280 to 320, maybe 315, 310, maybe down to 250, 260, and you're going up against guys, you're 300 to 325 pounds every single play that are pounding you and leaning on you and pounding on you and leaning on you. You might need some rest. It's just the nature of the beast at that position. But at linebacker, you better be conditioned to be out there almost every single play. I remember hearing Joshua Perry. It was Joshua Perry talking about this, and I know Ryan Shazier and Raekwon McMillan and Bobby Carpenter and AJ Hawk and James Laurinaitis. I know I've heard about previous linebackers talk about this very thing. They thought of rotating a lot. If you go back and watch some of those old games, especially those over the past 20 years, even in the Ohio State football game, you're probably going to see a linebacker out there that doesn't come off the field. Why? Not only is he the best option, he's really, really good at getting the job done, and you don't need to take him off the field. It's not needed at all. And they know if a coach tried to come to them and say, come off the field, they're like, hold on, man. Are you crazy? Have you lost your mind? That doesn't need to happen? No, I'm staying out there. Now, for Jim Knowles, this could be a trial and error period. There are 3 non-conference games Ohio State has in the upcoming season. Open up the season against the bad Indiana team. You play Notre Dame, I do believe, the 3rd week of the season, 3rd game of the season, and so that's there as well. But you have traditionally, you might want to say Indiana's a non-conference game as well because they're that bad. But you have teams that you could kind of rotate and figure this thing out with. May it be Indiana. May it be one of the other 2 non-conference games that's not Notre Dame. Figure it out. But I will tell you, there's a danger in rotating linebackers. You think the drop-off in D tackles and D-line was bad? I don't think it will be as drastic at linebacker if Cody Simon comes in. But it'll still be a drop-off. And that drop-off in that moment can literally be the time that the opposing offense gashes you 2-3 plays in a row. The third play being a touchdown. You're like, oh no. A 2-scored lead now goes to a 1-scored lead, and now you got to figure things out. And it's all because the opposing team realized the other guy can't do this. The other linebacker can't guard this. And we see the end result of that. There's a major danger in rotating linebackers. I'm not a fan of it, and I guarantee you there are numerous people that have played college football. They're not a fan of rotating linebackers either. Rotating linebackers, I hope it doesn't happen in the upcoming season, but you can learn from it. If it does happen, Chris Holtman can learn from Fairleigh Dickinson and their upset of Purdue over the weekend. What happened in this upset that caused Purdue, a number 1 seed, to lose to a 16 seed? We'll discuss that next. Be positive about it next right here on Locked on Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The tournament is heating up, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and threes drained. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. We can all learn from what's happened so far in the NCAA tournament. This is being recorded prior to the games on Sunday being played, so I am not sure if there'll be who is playing for sure in the Sweet 16 this upcoming Thursday and Friday. Some games have been played, some tickets have been punched, but not every ticket has been punched just yet. Speaking of tickets being punched, Purdue was a team that many people thought would be a lock for the Sweet 16. Not so fast, my friends. Fairleigh Dickinson. That is correct. Fairleigh Dickinson, the Knights, who play in Hackensack, New Jersey. upset the Purdue Boilermakers last week in the first round of the NCAA tournament. And in this game, there was one thing that I got to watch most of the second half. I forget what was happening in the first half that I was not watching it consistently. But as I was watching most of the second half, I got to see 15, maybe 16 minutes of it. Didn't change from the channel. One thing that stuck out, it is something that Chris Holtman can utilize to be better prepared for the upcoming season. Before I go any further, I spent a lot of time ripping Chris Holtman. This is not a time that I'm trying to rip him and expose him. It's more trying to put a positive spin on the basketball and how Ohio State can be better next season. So Purdue is a team that was really good. Won the Big Ten regular season, won the conference tournament, have Zach Edey, one of the best players in the entire country, which is a big reason why people thought they were going to be a lock. In comes Fairleigh Dickinson, and what do? They put the pressure on him, man. Purdue had no answer. No answer at all. The defensive pressure in the backcourt, sometimes a little full court press, being right up there in your hip pocket, not allowing, making you struggle to get the ball on the other side of the court, making you struggle to get inside of your offense, finding proper ways to defend Zach Edey, putting 2, maybe 3 guys on Zach Edey so he cannot get comfortable. Any way he turned, there was a body and arms right there in his way. They were really good at defending Purdue. Now, they knew at Purdue's best, if Purdue played the kind of basketball that they normally play, they can handle this. But Purdue was not built for this moment. Purdue did not have guys who wanted the basketball. And the defensive pressure that it was all one on defense. It was all on defense for FDU. It was all on defense. And their defensive pressure, not just in the backcourt, but for the entirety of the shot clock, it was a great thing. And I'm thinking during this game, what's making them so good and what's frustrating Purdue so much? Fairleigh Dickinson did a couple things. One, I mentioned it numerous times, they provided a great defensive pressure. But number 2, with doing so, they got in a stance. But also number 3, one more thing, they have guys that are athletic. And I think with Big Ten teams, Chris Holtman in Ohio State's in that same category. They do a great job of building teams to beat each other. They don't do a great job of building teams and recruiting players that can compete with everybody in the country. You need to recruit guys that are athletic. There's an athleticism there's a level of athleticism that is lacking from Ohio State's basketball team. And this is something that I've noticed from Chris Holtman's teams for his entire time coaching. At Butler and in Ohio State, not so much at Gardner-Webb, didn't watch him back then. But what I do know about him is he gets guys that are good, guys that are coachable. The guys in his teams are not always the most athletic. And Chris Holtman is all about the tweaking of the mind and the coaching mindset to be better in the upcoming season. Find guys that are athletic. But also not just athletic, guys that are athletic, guys that are coachable, and coach them to simply get in a stance and play good defense. You do need a great lead guard to win the NCAA tournament. I do believe Bruce Thornton is one of those guys who can take Ohio State on a deep run. But if Ohio State does not start recruiting more athletic players, this result of I don't think missing the tournament will be a consistent result, but ultimately getting knocked out in the first round, that'll be there. Because if you look at the roster, Justice Suway, not the most athletic. Eugene Brown III, okay on defense, like he's a better defensive player than most, but he's not out there getting in a stance and defending guys all over the place. Bruce Thornton, okay, cool. Ice Likely, okay, cool. Bryce Sensabaugh, not the guy on defense. Phillips Takapara, getting better. Sean McNeil, not a defensive guy. I would also say they're also not the most athletic team, not in the country, simply in the conference. You need guys that are more athletic to go on deep tournament runs. It is a consistent thing. It's a common thing among those teams that win these tournaments. And more so now, we saw it a few years ago. Baylor against Gonzaga. What did we find? Baylor got in the stands. Baylor played defense. Baylor was more athletic. Gonzaga had no answer. Simple. Like, I've seen this song and dance played over and over and over. You need guys that are athletic. You need those players on your team. You say, Jay, they're basketball players. They're all athletic. Some are. But if you get the guys that are more athletic than others, buddy, just wait and see what happens. You need guys that are more athletic on Ohio State's basketball team. Chris Holtman can see that. I'm sure if he didn't watch the game, he heard about it and talked about what happened. Simple. I'll tell you what happened. Fairleigh Dickinson got in the stands. Fairleigh Dickinson made Purdue uncomfortable. Fairleigh Dickinson made it hard for for Purdue to get into their rhythm on offense. Fairleigh Dickinson saw the guys that didn't want the basketball and put more pressure on them. Fletcher Lawyer didn't want the ball. Mason Gillis didn't want the ball. Braden Smith, okay, cool. But even at times, he didn't want the ball. Ethan Morton, he didn't want the ball. Zach Edey had issues. What do we find? The pressure and them getting in the stance of FDU, they caused fits for Purdue. You want Ohio State to be good and better in the upcoming season? Chris Holtman, go to the portal. Get guys that are athletic. Coach them to get into a stance. Coach the team to put great pressure on the opposition defensively and see what happens in the upcoming season. Ultimately, they still need big man. Like, okay, cool. I saw an Ohio State writer who didn't understand the narrative about Ohio State not having enough big men and not being big enough. Bro, Owens Rich is 6'9", not going to get on the court. Not going to get on the court. You got Zedke 6'8", Felix Okpara 6'11", who are the two guys that are going to get on the court that are true big men. That's not enough, man. That's not enough at all. If one goes down, we saw what happened this year. When Felix Okpara went out the game to rest when Zedke was hurt, who played big men? Eugene Brown III. That's not a good answer. You need big men as well. But Chris Holtman, take a page from FDU. Athleticism wins. Get the guys that are athletic and watch and see what happens when they play basketball in Columbus. We're out here on a Monday. Happy to be back. Took a day off, and it was a fun time to enjoy just the weather. I say weather all the time, but it was cold over the weekend. It was cold, but it was a fun time enjoying the basketball. Got to watch some basketball in the northern Indiana on Saturday afternoon and evening. Some really good stuff, and can't wait to watch more basketball in the NCAA tournament, the NIT, throughout the rest of the week. You can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. You can send all of your emails to jstevens317@gmail.com. Out of here on a Monday, guys. Hope you're enjoying your day. Hope you're enjoying this warmer weather than we had over the weekend, and hope you're enjoying this basketball that we get to enjoy all week long.